Welcome to the Spiderlord's A to Z. Now, before I begin, a couple of quick disclaimers. This is meant to be informative, but by no means is it exhaustive. I've tried to cover the more prominent spider genera, beginning with A, but there are too many to do them all. I've also kept it mostly restricted to UK species, apart from tarantulas, which don't live in the wild here. Likewise, while I'll be aiming for proper terms and anatomy, I won't be getting too technical, as I don't want to deter the casual listener. This is meant to be informative and entertaining. Secondly, pronunciation of binomial or scientific names. These names are tricky enough to remember and spell, let alone pronounce. Basically, your mileage may vary. My general approach is to make it as awkward sounding as possible. That seems to be around about the right way. What I'm basically saying is I might not get it right every time. If you have a pronunciation that you think is more accurate, then please, by all means, leave it in the comments below. So, without further ado, Spiderlord's A to Z. A. Part 1. Arachnid. All spiders are arachnids, but not all arachnids are spiders. How many different types of arachnid are there? Well, more than you would think. There are in fact 12. I'm not going to go into all of them here, but the big ones, they're not big, but you know what I mean, are ticks, scorpions, solifugae, which are camel spiders or sun spiders, the various whip scorpions such as amphipoigae, and of course Apolliones, harvestmen, which are often mistaken for spiders themselves. None of them have wings or antennae, and nearly all of them have 8 legs, which is where the name comes from. Araneae. Araneae are spiders, so broadly speaking, when we're talking about the classification of animals, we go from arachnid, which covers those that I've spoken about previously, to Araneae, which covers just spiders. Now, within Araneae, you have 3 infraorders. They are Mesophalae, which are the extremely primitive armoured trapdoor spiders. That armour is a remnant of prehistoric spiders. Then there are Megalomorphae. This is an infraorder that includes tarantulas, funnel webs, and trapdoor spiders. And then you have the more recently evolved and less primitive Araneomorphae. These are your true spiders, the ones that you see most days. Most of the spiders in the UK are Araneomorphae. In fact, we have only one megalomorph, and this is the rarely seen Atopus affinis, the purseweb spider that I've spoken about in a previous video. Although small, this spider has proportionately huge chelicerae. They hide inside the silken tunnel and stab the prey through the web with large fangs. It lives for about 10 years, which is longer than most spiders. Tarantulas can live up to 40 years. Araneomorphae A have much shorter lifespans, and they only molt up until maturity. Once they reach their adult stage, they no longer molt. They also have fangs that meet in a pincer, whereas megalomorphs have fangs that swing down, more or less parallel to each other, like daggers. Typically, araneomorphs make more use of silk and webs, though there are always exceptions like Leucosidae, the wolf spiders, which mainly use their silk to construct egg sacs that they carry about. They are ambush hunters and do not spin webs. Araneus. Araneus is a genus within the infraorder of Araneomorph. Now, feel free to pause this and go back over it if it's getting too complicated, or just let me know in the comments. I do like to make this easy to digest. Araneus are a genus, which is a classification within an infraorder. Now, Araneus are orb weavers. In the UK, we have 6 species, but the main ones that you will see are Araneus diadematus, the common or southern cross garden spider. These are the ones that you see on big webs in late autumn, towards the end of their cycle. They make a new web every day, eating the old one to recycle it, and spend most of the time in the middle of that web waiting for prey. They lay their egg sacs towards the end of the yearly cycle. They do only live 1 year, and then die. This egg sac will then hatch the following year into a bundle of bright yellow spiderlings, which cluster together for a few days before dispersing and starting this cycle all over again. Another Araneus in the UK that I will very quickly highlight is Araneus quadratus, the 4-spot orb weaver. Now what's amazing about this species is that it demonstrates chameleonic capabilities, changing in colour from yellowy green to a deep red depending on the environment. Agape. We only have one Agape in the UK, and that is Agape brunnicki, the wasp spider. However, there are loads more, including the beautiful Agape aurantia, which the Americans call the garden spider. There are loads more, and they're all variations of white, black and yellow, and I'll be discussing our Agape in a future video. Abdomen. This picture sums it up. We don't call it an abdomen, we call it the oposphysoma. Why? Well, this is only for arachnids, to be fair. The distinction is the presence of the heart and lungs. So, now you know a thing. Abdomen for insects, oposphysoma for arachnids. Arboreal. Now basically this just describes spiders that live in trees. I mean, that is it. But it is a term you'll see applied especially a lot to South American tarantulas like the Avicularia, the pink toes, which obviously will be coming up later in A. Alapicosa. Now just as Lycosidae uses the Latin for wolf, so Alapicosa uses the Latin for fox. Hence, Alapicosa are known as fox spiders, although there's little real difference. Alapicosa is a genus within the family Lycosidae. Other Lycosidae we have in the UK are Trichosa, Pardosa and Pirata. Aphonopelma. Now Aphonopelma are a genus of tarantula endemic to the Americas. Being what we call New World tarantulas, they lack any significant venom and instead use irritating hairs that they flick at potential predators as their defence mechanism. Now, Aphonopelma is currently an absolute mess as a genus, not helped in the slightest by the fact that most of them look the same, particularly when you come to the North American species, which are usually variations of black and brown. Revised several times, the genus still requires much work, and each time they are revised, many species are banished from existence. The ones from Central America are a little bit more non-uniform, but in all honesty, these are probably completely different animals to the ones from the States. I'd not be surprised to see them shunted to another genus in the future. Tarantula taxonomy is a real pain in the arse. Australia. Now, I'm not going to mention every single country beginning with A, otherwise we would be here all day. But Australia deserves special mention. Not only do they have some of the world's most venomous spiders, with venom that is designed to be particularly effective on primates, on a continent that has no primates apart from humans, but they have an astonishing biodiversity in general, with so many species that are found nowhere else on Earth. Perhaps more astonishing than this, however, is that there has not been a death from a spider bite in Australia in over 40 years. And this is down to anti-venom. Ever since the development of anti-venom in Australia, no one has ever died of a spider bite. Antivenoms are developed from the actual venom of the spider itself and farmed directly from the fangs. The most used antivenom is that of Atrax robustus, the Sydney funnel web. Now, as we learned earlier, funnel webs are megalomorphs. Only the males have dangerous bites, but they are also the ones that tend to leave their funnel webs and go for a bit of a wander, making them more likely to encounter people. However, despite their toxicity, Atrax are not treated with mass hysteria in Australia. Ever more chilled and practical than us here in the UK, the Aussies often collect Atrax when they're encountered and send them off to the zoo to have their venom collected. It takes 70 milkings of one spider to make one dose of antivenom. So the Aussies rightly value these amazing spiders rather than scream and wail about them like our press does with the comparatively harmless Steatoda nobilis. Another very interesting thing about Atrax robustus is that unlike all other spiders, they never seem to deliver dry bites. You get a fully envenomated hit every single time. This sucks for bite victims, but presumably it makes it easier to milk the spiders. So silver linings, I guess. And that's it for part 1 of the Spiderlord's A to Z. I'll be back with part 2 of A soon. Until then, remember, chill out. It's just a spider.